Hey folks, welcome to this week's edition of Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain, and I hope you've had a great week out there turkey hunting. I know it's been tough for a lot of guys. Before we start talking turkey hunting with Ed here, we're going to talk about numerous things tonight. I want to talk about our great sponsor, Knob Creek Gun Range. Folks, without them, we wouldn't be able to have this show and bring you any news coming up, in whether it be Frankfurt Fish and Wildlife or seasons coming up. So I really want to thank these guys. They go above and beyond to help us. Kenny Sumners and the guys out there are very knowledgeable. If you need anything related to any type of hunting or just fun shooting, AR, weapons, scopes, holsters, ammunition, they have it all. Of course, they're world famous for their 2 machine gun shoots they have in the spring and fall. They just had their spring one here about a month ago, and it was a huge success. So make sure you stop by Knob Creek. They have a great gun range. You can go out there and set your rifles in for deer season, because it's never too early to start thinking about deer season. With turkey winding down, we definitely want to start focusing more on deer now. So really want to thank those guys there. Ed, this past week we were shooting a commercial for Lights Out's new sponsor, DAT Hot Sauce out of Louisiana. Right. And we had me and Chris Redmond and Jason McKinley and Justin Renault there shooting this commercial. And me and Chris started a little early, so we started setting our bows in. Of course, for y'all that have been watching the show, you know Tribe Archery is now sponsoring, is our bow of choice for Lights Out. And I've been very, very pleased with it. It's a really, really cool looking bow. They have the Halo Extreme, and they also have the Kinetic. And it's an amazing piece of machinery. I can't speak enough about this organization. They're out of Dayton, Ohio, and 100% American-made bows, which is hard to find these days.
Yes, it is.
Most of the bows are made, parts are made, overseas because it's cheaper. They're able to make them here in the United States and keep the prices in order with everybody else out there. And anymore, technology is so close when it comes to these bows that I don't care what bow you're shooting, they're all really good pieces of equipment.
Yes, they are, yeah.
And when you top it off with the HHA site, the Kingpin site, that is another good sponsor of ours, we were setting our bows in, and it's a single pin sight up to 100 yards. And me and Chris was messing around after we got them set in, and we were shooting foam targets at 100 yards, and we were in the kill zone 8 out of 10 times at 100 yards.
Not bad for the first day out.
It's not bad for the first day out. And, when you think about a football field and taking a bow shot, last year I was able to take a shot at a doe. It was 92 yards, and I shot over her back, which I think it was more that she see my Luminoc coming at dusk, and she ducked that Luminoc. If she was looking the other way, I probably would have had a really nice film of a 92-year-old doe kill. So hopefully this year here we can make connection on that 100-yard shot. It's what one of my goals are. When you're hunting, everybody has a goal, whether it be shooting a 200-inch free-range deer or a drop tine or something with a lot of stickers and junk on it. Mine's kind of killing a doe at 100 yards.
Yeah, well,
you don't see it a whole lot.
No, and Tribe is, like you said, they're just top notch. I've got the Kinetics is what the one that I have coming to me, but what I've read, the everything down to the quality of the strings, they don't cut anything. I mean, everything's done top notch.
It is, and Heath Painter is the owner of Tribe, and he's been with different bow companies, Bowtech, and he was with Hoyt, and he was with Matthews. So I think he's kind of taken all of the good stuff from all of them and kind of built the Halos and the Kinetic for Tribe. So we're really, really proud to be with them, and we're going to do some damage this year.
Yes, we are.
With these new bows, so we're really looking forward to that. So turkey season's winding down.
Yep.
Today is our last day for Kentucky of turkey hunting. Hopefully, if you're out there right now and you're watching this on a rerun, that you were very successful tonight. It's been a tough year. Early in the youth season was horrible. 50-mile-an-hour winds. It was cold. I didn't see a whole lot of youth posting pictures. I went out with my son. Wasn't able to connect on one. And then the first weekend of our season, they were gobbling really, really good. And I was able to get one on the ground 15 minutes after daybreak, and he flew off the roost. But I've just seen everybody else saying how hard it's been, and I've been back out several times since then, but they're gobbling on the roost, they hit the ground, lockjaw, nothing. Now I know you were able to kill one this year.
Opening day.
Opening day also, but what has been you've been since the opening day?
Went yesterday. Been several times. We went through the little bit of the spell like you had with them not even gobbling, not hearing anything. But maybe later in the day you see 30 or 40 out in the field.
Right.
But just maybe gobble a little bit in the mornings, and then as soon as they hit the ground. But yesterday when we went, Bob and I went and filmed a segment for Lights Out, and we got down there, and it was like Thunder Valley. I mean, they were gobbling everywhere, just
off the roost or on the roost?
On the roost,
on the
going
roost,
crazy.
Right.
Probably had 10 or 12 gobblers within a couple hundred yards. We walked back a creek bottom, and it's got a ridge on each side, and when we get to the very end, it opens up, and I've got a big food plot back there, and then a ridge here. So we've got 3 ridges and 3 hollows, and they were just everywhere. About the time that they started just gobbling all to heck, the hens started. And I've never heard so many hens in my life, and we started watching them fly down, and we probably watched 35 or 40 hens fly down and hit the one hillside across from us. And then it wasn't 5 minutes, and the gobblers, you'd hear them flying down, and they went straight to them, and we never heard another word. Yeah,
and that's what everybody's been saying. That's the same thing I've been seeing. We did get a couple to gobble midday after the hens went to roost. After they went to the nest. Once they got on the nest, of course the gobblers were out looking for more hens, and you'd hear a little gobble here and there. So far off, you try to get on them and be on somebody else's property. You get to the property line, you got to stop. You're trying to call them off their property back onto your property. It's a tough bird to do that with, especially if there's another hen in the field. They're not even going to remotely think about you at all at 150 yards away when she's 20 yards. No, the last couple of days, it seems like some of my friends on Facebook and stuff, the ones that have been killing 10, 11, 12 o'clock. Once the hens went to the nest, then the toms got out cruising a little bit. Yeah. But no, it doesn't seem like hardly anybody was having a lot of success right off the roost in the morning. You know, Lights Out, the first weekend we killed it. We had 7 birds down the first weekend, very successful, and we've killed 2 birds since then. And it's started out with a bang, but kind of slowed down, but still, 9 birds for our short Kentucky season's pretty good. Now, Indiana opened on Wednesday. Right. So for those of you all live in Indiana, good luck this year. And for the ones that are in Kentucky, hopefully you got to tag out or at least got to take one out. Myself, I only got one. Ed got one. Most of our guys did get one. So hopefully you had a good, productive season. Hopefully some kids got some birds. And Indiana's coming up now, so I'm going to try to get over to Scottsburg over there. I got some friends in Scottsburg that's got some property over there that invited me up to kill a bird up there. So that's probably going to be my next stop is going to be Indiana, being so close. When we come back from break, we're going to talk a little bit more about turkey hunting. We're going to get into some One Wish Foundation stuff, and then we're going to talk early season food plots because right now is the time to start thinking about that.
Yes, sir.
Your time's freeing up now. Turkey's over with. It's time to start thinking about deer hunting. So, folks, we'll be right back. Hey, guys. Welcome back to Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain. With me, I have Ed Morris, staff member for Lights Out Outdoors TV. Ed, before we went to break, we was talking about turkey hunting, how Indiana's getting ready to start. And for all you folks out in TV land, if you have just too many birds that you cannot kill, look us up on Facebook, send us a message. We'll be glad to come over and help you out, just getting rid of those little nasty buzzards.
Yeah, I'm telling you, we're getting ready to, for Lights Out, we're going to go film. We're going to hunt Indiana next week. Sunday, we leave for Pennsylvania, and we're hunting in Pennsylvania next Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We come back, we're home a couple days, and we go to Kansas and finish out for the end of the Kansas season. So we got quite a bit of road trips headed ahead of us for Lights Out, try to film a few more segments.
Yeah, it's going to be good because it's what we really like is diversity and killing at different states. And I'm kind of sad I'm not going to make the Kansas trip this year.
We had a good time.
We had a ball last year. We had a good time deer hunting up there. It was colder than heck, but it was still fun to do. And I hope y'all do really, really good in Pennsylvania because that should be good. The guys from One Wish are up in Pennsylvania, and they've been posting pictures like crazy of birds just getting killed everywhere they go.
Great.
So from what I hear, Pennsylvania's on fire this year, and so is Southern New York too. So they've been doing really good up there. Speaking of One Wish, we've talked about One Wish a few times on this show. What they do, the One Wish Foundation, please go like their Facebook page and let them know that Tom at Wild Kentuckiana Live sent you. It's a great organization. Everybody's heard of the different programs, Make-A-Wish Foundation, for kids that have, that are terminally ill. Well, One Wish is a little different. What they do is any kid or vet that has a life-altering disease, doesn't have to be terminal. It can be autism, it can be a severe case of ADHD, it can be numerous things. They set up hunting trips for these kids and vets because Make-A-Wish Foundation does not do anything hunting related, which kind of disappoints me in a way.
Yeah.
It's a good organization. I just wish they would expand a little more to do some more of what One Wish is doing. It's a total 100% nonprofit. They do not have one person that gets paid. Everything's volunteer. They've had Jimmy Houston do some fishing stuff with them. They've had some really, really class acts do a lot of hunts with kids up there and vets. But all you got to do is go hit the Apply Now button and fill out the application. And I can tell you, if you're in Kentucky and you hit that application, you're going to be coming to Lights Out because we're going to be one hosting that hunt for you. And you go fill that app out, and I guarantee you're going to get drawn to hunt with us for your kid because they don't have the money they're getting in. They're getting more money in than they're getting kids to help.
Yep.
So they're trying to get the word out to help all these kids out. Just not enough applications are being filled out.
They've got the money.
They've got the money.
To spend it.
It's exactly right. So, if you're in Kentucky or Indiana and you want to hunt with the One Wish Foundation and Lights Out, go fill it out, and you'll be hunting with us coming up real soon, and we'll take really good care of you, and we'll film you, and we'll show some episode of you. But June 4th, they're having their great big banquet up in Pennsylvania, and I'm going up there to do a little bit of guest speaking for this banquet. They actually had to move locations. In the first 45 minutes, they sold 840 tickets. They oversold their venue that quick. So what they had to do, they had to move their venue down the road some to a bigger, I believe it's a small college. They're using their gymnasium. And now I think they're up to 1,200 tickets.
Wow.
So
that's impressive.
That's really good for a complete nonprofit foundation. I think the tickets are $25 a piece. It's about a 8.5, 9-hour drive. So Ed's going to join me here, and we're going to go up on the 3rd, and we're going to go up and help them set up, and they're going to have a big silent auction and some guest speakers, and TJ Bebb, Nashville recording artists, will be there singing. And it's just going to be a ball. And then hopefully we can swing over to Pocono, because Jeffrey Earnhardt from the opener is going to be at Pocono Raceway that weekend. And so we're going to try to swing up there and watch a race with him in his pits, and then head back to Kentucky on Monday. So that sounds like a really good weekend to me.
I'm packing now.
So it's just a month away, folks, but hopefully we'll bring you some good footage from that banquet we attend. And I'm really proud to be one of their guest speakers because that foundation is so amazing. The people that do it are so amazing, and they work tirelessly to promote it and to help these kids out. They just did a big fishing trip, trout fishing trip up in Pennsylvania, and the kids did wonderful. They caught a lot of trout, and they also just did a turkey hunt in PA, and got one of the young ladies, her first turkey ever, and weighed 23 pounds, had 11-inch beard and 1.25
Cool.
spurs. So that's a great bird
Yes,
it's a great bird anytime, but especially for your first bird. So definitely check out the One Wish Foundation and let them know Tom from Wild Kentuckiana Live sent you, and go on there and click that button, fill that application out. Let's get you hunting with us because we're going to have a heck of a good time doing it. So,
Tom, one thing about it, there's such a need for this organization. My wife and I, years ago, were big fundraisers for the Dream Factory, which is similar to Make-A-Wish. Raised a lot of money for them every year. Her and I put on a big fundraising event here in Louisville. And it was amazing the amount of kids then who wanted a hunting or fishing trip, and they just said no, absolutely not. Nothing involving that type of a venue. If you wanted to go to Disney World or a football game, that was fine. But if you wanted to hunt or fish sorry about your luck.
Yeah.
So this opens the door for a lot of those kids.
Yeah, they've really seen the need because the other organizations will not allow hunting or fishing. And they're really picking up the slack for the rest of those organizations. Not that those organizations do a bad job.
No.
I just really wish they would spend a little more effort. And they do it reasonably, politically reasons why.
Yes, politically correct.
They want to be politically correct, and they don't want to make any of their donors mad. And you know what? That's a bunch of bull crap.
Yeah.
Do what's right, and then you don't have to worry about any of that.
That's exactly right.
They don't realize how many hunters and fishermen out there would donate more than their probably donors are giving them now to do hunting and fishing trips.
That's correct.
You know, hunters and fishermen have a lot of disposable income yearly.
You have to.
You have to. It's an expensive sport. So, folks, when we come back from our next break, we're going to start talking about early season food plots. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain. With me is Ed Morris, staff member for Lights Out Outdoors. He's actually our guru when it comes to food plot maintenance, building them from scratch, maintaining them, using them every year. Now, Ed, you know, food plots are an essential balance to a healthy deer herd.
Correct.
Now, right now, we're in that lull period from March 1 to June 1 where you can't put any attractants, minerals, corn,
Correct.
blocks,
Right.
any of that stuff out. Turkey season's ending today. So we got still, you know, another month before we can start putting that in. But people at home are like, what am I going to do now? Turkey season's over with. What am I going to do? You've probably already shed hunted every piece of property you know. So now it's that month of like, man, what can I do now? Because you can put trail cam pictures out on current trails you know and start to see a little bit of growth popping out of the head a little bit right now. But what are you going to do to maintain your property and keep those deer on your property? Well, you got a month, so let's do food plots. That's the best way to do it. What do you think?
Well, it is, and at least the planning portion of it. Part of the problem that we see every year is turkey season's over, and everybody wants to go out and start putting in food plots. Now, if you've got existing food plots that have been there before, that you've worked on previously, and you're just going to touch them up or you're going to replant them and they're already falling out dead or whatever, that's not too much of an issue. But it's when the ones that want to go out and they've got the grown-up fields full of weed and fescue and everything else, well, when they start running those bush hogs through there, they just maybe destroyed 4 or 5 turkey nests. So one of the first things we always try to tell people is at least walk the fields first. If you're going to get started, walk them, make sure that if there is a nest, you go around it, leave enough room. Let's don't go out here and destroy what they're trying to do.
And that hen will let you know if there's a nest there.
Oh, yes, sir.
Because it's going to scare the fire out of you when you walk up on her.
Yes, yes. But the planning stage goes in now. You know, hitting food plots, we could be here for the next 3 or 4 weeks trying to cover it, and we'll try to hit some of the strong points. But there's 2 basic types of food plots, and that's what you have to decide. One is the nutritional type, where you're providing food on a year-round basis to have bigger, healthier herds, more food, more protein, more nutrients for the animals. The other one is strictly the attractant type food plot, where you're hoping to bring the deer in and have a better chance of taking them. Now, they both do the same things. They both will work, but there is a difference between the 2 types of plants. So the first thing you got to kind of decide is what's my long-term plan? Do I want to build bigger deer, healthier deer, or do I just want to put a food plot in? So that's each individual person's decision.
And you don't have to really choose. You can do both.
You can do both, absolutely.
You know, if you've got, you know, enough space, you can put both of them in side by side, or one part of the farm, another part of the farm.
Correct.
And try to maintain and keep those deer on your property, because if your neighbors aren't putting food plots out, and you are, there's a good chance you're going to keep majority of the deer on your property.
Correct.
Most of the time.
Correct. That you'll hold the deer. You know, one of the things to do, let's just say we're starting from scratch and you and I just got a lease in Adair County and we want to put food plots in. Well, the first thing you want to do is go out and get good soil samples.
Right.
Get you 5 or 6 from each area. And the key to a good soil sample is when you send it in, tell them what you plan on planting there.
Right.
Then they'll tell you how much phosphate, calcium, lime, whatever
Right.
you need to add that will be best for that particular plant. So many times people will take soil samples and send them in, but they really don't tell the guys who are running the test what they're planning on growing.
And you can get those tests done at a lot of different places.
Correct, yeah.
The southern states still handle tests like that?
I think they will. Most of your...
like your Bardstown Mills, your
Yeah.
places like that?
and your county soil conservation agents, they'll do it at $3, $4 a test.
Test, right.
And when they give it back, they give you back a complete report. It's got the pH on there, the nitrogen, the phosphates, everything. But you want to start planning now because you need to know what you've got. Because
Yeah, you need to know if you're going to need 50 pounds of lime or 300 pounds of lime.
That's correct. That's correct. You know, the most expensive seed in the world is only as good as the dirt that it goes into.
Right.
And people think they can go out here and buy the most expensive seed and just throw it in the ground. And if the ground's not ready, they've wasted their money. So, but getting that and then determining the other thing that we always try to teach people in seminars, food plots are like real estate. It's location, location, location.
Absolutely.
And there's 3 keys really that you want to look for. And not everybody can do it because of the way their property is. You
Right.
have some places there's only one place to put it.
Yeah.
But one of the first places we tell people is it huntable? Can you get to it and can you get away from it without spooking
Bumping.
the deer?
Absolutely.
If you've got a beautiful food plot and you've got 50 deer come in there at dark, can you get out of your stand and get back to your vehicle? Because if you bump a big buck once or twice, he's not coming back
Yeah.
there. So it's got to be huntable. It's got to be right with the wind directions, access in and out. Second thing is along the roads. There's only one group of people that really like food plots more than deer, and that's the poachers.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if you can keep it away from the roads, away from the people who cruise and start looking to shoot from the roads, that's the second choice. And then the third one is we all don't have the best neighbors. And if you plant them along the property lines, how many times have you walked a piece of property and seen the neighbors put a new stand up and it's right on the fence row and it's facing your property?
Yeah, and all they got behind them is a 500-acre cornfield, and they're stuck right in the middle looking at your food plot.
That's right, that's right. So you want to be able to try to place it, if you're going to spend the time and the money and the effort, to where poachers can't get it, your neighbors can't benefit necessarily off of it, and 3, that you can get to it and get away from it without bumping the deer. So that's the kind of planning that you can start doing right now.
Right, and I tell you what, when I go to look for food plot areas on pieces of property, if it has any river bottoms, that's my first go-to.
Yes.
I love a river bottom because it's usually got really rich soil because it floods 100 times a year in the spring and fall. So usually that soil is really rich. Now, at least we had together out in Bullitt County, we had some river bottom down there, and that come up just flat beautiful. And but we hurt ourselves a little bit because we had one way in, one way out.
That's correct.
And it's one of the things that you really want to stay away from is finding different access points in and able to be big enough where you can put different sets up, different stands or blinds up, depending on your wind direction.
That's absolutely right. Yeah.
Because that's very much key because like you said, whether you bump him or he smells you a couple times, when you get these big mature deer, you only get 1 or 2
It's a different breed.
options.
It's a different breed. That's
And
correct.
you got to get them the first or second time you see them, or you're not going to get them.
That's right.
They go nocturnal. You'll get a ton of pictures in the middle of 3 or 4 or 5, 6 o'clock in the morning, and you'll never see them in daylight.
That's it.
So when we come back, folks, we're going to take the next step on the food plot. Stay tuned. Hey, welcome back to Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain, and we're talking food plots with Ed Morris. And Ed, I've got the itchy finger right now. I've got that bow set in. It's shooting good. I don't know if I can wait this much longer. I'm just ready to get this deer season started now that turkey's over. And in this last segment, we talked about proper placement of your food plots, getting your soil testing done. So what's our next step? If we got all that lined out, staying away from our property line, stay away from the road, making it accessible, wind accessible, what's the next step there?
The next step you're going to get to is actually starting to, one, make determination of what you're going to grow and what your train of thought is. Okay, do you want something that's going to be great for early season bow season, like clovers and chicories and that type of stuff, or do you want something that's going to extend later into the season, such as soybeans or brassicas or whatever? So, and that depends on the area that you're in. If you're in a big, heavy agricultural area and there's nothing around you but cornfields and soybean fields and everything else, you're not really going to compete with them for that. So you want something different.
Something sweet, something that's going to bring them in.
That's right. Deer studies, been hundreds of very, very scientific studies show that the deer are no different than you and me. We don't eat every meal at McDonald's. We like variety. We like something a little different. We do it maybe because of the palatability. They do it because, well, they can eat acorns and corn and get the carbohydrates. They can eat the clovers or the browse to get the proteins. They can eat this maybe because it's got some calcium content to it. So the main minerals with the deer are calcium and phosphates. So you'll make that decision. So let's say that...
now that's one food plot we put in this past year. Now tell everybody what that food plot consisted of.
Okay, that was more of an early spring or an early hunting season food plot. At that time, that was about a 3 to 4 week old picture of that food plot. It had some cowpeas in it. It had a bunch of clover in it. It had a little bit of brassicas, not a whole lot. Didn't have anything of beans, but it was primarily clovers, chicories. I'm trying to remember what all was in that, what we put in that plot. It was mostly a lagoon-based type plot, but it turned
did
out
wonderful.
great.
And spray it with Rock Vantage. Big fan of Rock Vantage. It's just an enhancement full of nitrogen, and it takes it and shoots it up, and it's hard for those deer to eat it all at one time.
It's a great product.
It is. Now, when you're putting those plots in, don't you have to be mindful of the size of the plot because of them eating to the stems before it grows?
If you're going to put, let's say you're going to put beans out, and we recommend what they call forage beans, which is different than an agricultural soybean. Don't just go to Tractor Supply or Southern States and buy soybeans. That's the agricultural brand. You want to buy a brand of beans that's specific called forage. The pod is a lot tougher and it doesn't break open until a lot later in the season. But with any kind of beans, if you're planting less than 3 to 5 acres, you're wasting your time because they'll eat it to the ground as fast as it comes up, especially if you have a high deer density and they're just going to mow it down. So part of that goes back to, again, to what you want to plant. If you've got a 1 to 3 acre plant, nothing beats clover.
Now that had a lot of clover. That was our river bottom food plot last year, and I mean it got so daggone high. It was knee high at some points, and they really tore it up after that first frost because you had a bunch of turnips in there. Yeah,
we had a lot of brassicas in that. We had rape, we had turnips, and we had kale in there also. We had 3 different brands of brassicas, and they're all starches, and once that frost hit, it turns to sugar, and of course by then, all the soybeans had been harvested, all the corn had been harvested, and it was like a little gold mine as far as that was concerned. But we're back to, we've decided now that we're going to go with the small plots, 1 to 3 acres, and we want to go with clovers. Okay. Well, the thing that most people will get ruined on is the preparation. As you saw working with me last year, I get anal about prepping the plots before we ever plant. And that means going in there and mowing it. If it's say waist deep or so, you need to mow that down to where it's about 5 or 6 inches in height. The mistake that a lot of people make is they'll come in there at that point in time, maybe the same day or the next day, and they'll want to spray it. Come in there with glyphosate, Roundup, and they'll want to spray it. Well, you can't do that. You won't get a good kill because when you mow those plants, that's a living organism. So it's no different than if you cut your arm with a knife, it's going to scab over. Nothing's going to penetrate it. Once you mow it, it needs to sit for 5 to 7 days and start growing green again. Glyphosate, which is that kills everything, is only good on green leafy material. It won't work on dormant material. It won't. I mean, it's got to be something that's blooming. It's got to be 55 degrees. That's right. So you wait a week, you come back, and then you spray it. Well, then you got to give it another week for that to get all the way to the root system. If you come in there and start disking it up 2 or 3 days later, that glyphosate hasn't gotten to the root system, and all you've done is you just cut it off, and those weeds are going to come right back.
And you got to make sure you wait 24 hours for any rain coming in before you
That's
you
correct.
spray.
That's correct. Most of your good generic glyphosates will say 6 to 8 hours. I'm a 24-hour believer.
Yeah.
I've had them happen before, at 10 or 12, and you wash it. You really dilute the effectiveness of that. Now, one thing too is a simple mistake that a lot of people make is they'll say, okay, glyphosate, I'm going to go to Tractor Supply, I'm going to go to Lowe's. The stuff you buy at Lowe's is about 18% glyphosate. You want to go to a farm supply, you want a minimum, read the label, of 41% glyphosate. So that's the good stuff. The rest of the stuff is good for working around your yard and killing a few dandelions. But make sure you don't buy the stuff that's not going to work. If you're going to spend the money, buy the good stuff.
Because it's not cheap. None of the stuff is cheap.
No.
And we all know when it comes to anything to do with deer hunting, it's all expensive, and you want to make sure you get the best bang for your buck.
That's right. So you want to get a good spray. I use a 3 to 5% solution. Follow the directions, but they'll tell you 1 to 2%. But if it's the first time you've developed that plot, you need to go to a 3 to 5% solution
to make sure you get a full good kill.
Right. And you saw the kills that we got last year.
Yep. And then at that point it was really easy then because you take a tiller box or a disc or whatever you're going to use, and the stuff just folds up like it's nothing.
That's right.
Because it's all dead. There's no roots holding it together, and you can bust through it and put a really good. And when I was tilling mine up, I really wanted to do it really, really fine.
Yeah.
Do you recommend that usually?
Yes. Much better seed bed that way.
Yeah. And then, so when we get back from the next break, we're going to talk about doing the seed spread, doing the dragon, and your final outcome. So folks, stay tuned.
Sounds good.
Welcome back to Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain. We're talking food plots with Ed Morris. Now, Ed, we've covered a lot of ground so far here about proper placements, your soil densities, choosing what you want to put in there if you want an early season, late season. I like a little bit of both.
Yes.
Even if I have to split the plot in half and do half of it, maybe 2 acres in the early season and 2 acres for late season, if you got a really nice spot.
There's an old saying, Dr. Grant Woods, who most hunters will know, is one of the foremost authorities on food plots. And he has a little line that says, don't clean the table, which means if you got a big food plot and you put it out there for spring and summer to give them all the nutrition and the new fawns, and now you want to put it in a brassica plant, and you go in there and you just disc it all up, and replant it for something for October, November, you might lose those deer because you've taken all their food source away. Now they go looking. So he says, don't clean the table. Leave half of it in the clover and plant the other half. So you still got them coming to that food plot, but now you're going to give them something extra for later on. So you want to try to balance it out. You never want to just start over from scratch halfway through the year.
Now, right now is the time to start prepping for your early season bow plot. When do you suggest people start prepping for their gun season, late bow season, late muzzleloader? What time of year should you start doing that?
If you want to plant brassicas, which is always my first choice for late season, you need about 45 days of maturity before the first freeze. So typically our first freeze, we've had them as early as some middle of October, but I usually figure November the 1st.
So Halloween, if you're in by Halloween.
Yeah. I usually start somewhere around the middle of August to the 1st of September putting in my late season plots. And if I've got a big clover or chicory or alfalfa, whatever, I'll go in there. And lots of times I'll do mine in strips. I won't just cut it in half. I'll take a 10-foot strip here, leave a 10-foot strip of what's existing, then another 10-foot strip, and I'll alternate strips with the late season stuff. And then what you can do, with those being an annual, means the brassicas only come back one time.
Right.
What you can do is come February, you can go in there and frost seed the entire plot, and as the warm weather comes on, those areas where you have brassicas, the clover will start growing up through it.
Right.
And all you got to do is go through there and mow at one time.
You know, I'm a big fan of trying to get everything in before deer season starts to keep the equipment out. So I really like the idea of getting them in late August before season starts and having it done over with. You're not dragging equipment in there, four-wheelers, tractors, and messing everything up.
Yeah, keep the pressure off.
Excuse me. Allergies, just like everybody else right now, you know, the blooming of everything. Long-term plan on not just food plots, but if you own your property, I'm a big proponent of planting fruit trees for a long term. You know, your apple trees, your pear trees, your persimmons, and you know, we all know that there's all kinds of cover scents and everything else that's persimmon and apple and that type of stuff. And what do you think about that?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. That they'll hold deer. They provide a high level of nutrient value to us. Some more than others, but a high level of nutrient value. It's just if you can get a good orchard going, it's another part of that pie. You know, deer management's like a pie, and you've got food plots as part of it, and the orchards, natural grasses, habitat improvement, water sources. Everything goes into the overall deer management plan. And that's you know, people get a mistaken. Oh, I'm going to go out here and I just got me a new lease and there's a 2-acre plot. I'm going to throw a bunch of clover in and I'm going to kill a bunch of 180 deer this year.
Yeah.
I wish it was that easy, but it's
Me
not.
too.
It's part of an overall program that takes several years to develop.
It does. And if you have a long-term lease, a 5, 10, 15-year lease, or you own your property, then look into the long-term solutions to grow big bucks.
Yes.
And part of growing big bucks is making sure you manage your does. Just like anything else, a pond can get overfilled with one type of fish and not have room for others.
Correct.
So make sure you're doing your part in doe management and predator management and, you know, all that stuff. You want to keep your foxes, your coyotes, and all that down too. But I think an orchard's a great way to go. You plant, you know, 10 or 12 apple trees. What deer doesn't love apples? Yeah. I've seen them stand on their hind legs and reach the tallest ones they can get to. Yeah. You know, and then, you know, of course, pears same way, and persimmon. They love persimmons.
Love
very
persimmons.
sweet when they get ripe and they start hitting the ground. You can look under any persimmon tree and there'll be 5,000 tracks.
Some of my best trail cam pictures from one of my places down in Breckenridge County is from a big persimmon thicket back in the woods, and they'll just destroy it. You know, native warm season grasses. Provides cover for fawning, from predators, and it's great for other types of wildlife. I mean,
absolutely.
For quail and rabbit.
Absolutely.
I mean, there's so many benefits.
Grouse is making a big comeback.
Yes. I mean, there's so many benefits to a deer management plan. Also benefits many other species.
It does. It really does. And I tell you what, some of the smartest guys I've ever dealt with is part of the QDMA. I mean, those guys really are on top of their game, and you're still with QDMA, but you did a lot with them in the past as far as seminars and that type of thing.
Yes, yes. So I was the first president of the first branch here in Kentucky, which was the Derby City branch here in Louisville. I'm still on their board. Steve Daniels, who's been a guest on your show here, is the current president. And Pete Blanford, who's been on here, was
both of
the
them
past
very,
president.
very knowledgeable guys.
Very knowledgeable guys. I was very active. I've given seminars for the last 8 to 10 years on food plots. But QDMA, if you go to their website, as an example, this right here is called the Bible. This Bible is quality food plots. You can go to QDMA's website. We could sit here for 2 weeks and still not cover everything. This is the book that serious deer managers buy. It's $25 online. But if you want to know about food plots, this is the book that you need to get. It's the most, there we go, a little better there, a little less glare. It's probably the most comprehensive. They now come out with a second edition with some updates on it. I've got it as well, but I still recommend this first book right here. So it's, if you're really serious about a deer management plan and a food plot plan, get this book and read it, because it's absolutely the most, like I say, it's got everything in it, from herbicides to fertilizers to lime to everything that you could possibly need to know. And their website has a forum as well. If you're putting one in and your food plot's being overtaken by weeds and you don't know what it is, take a picture of it. You can send it to the forum, and there's experts on there who'll say, oh, that's a thistleweed, or that's this, or that's this.
Here's how you get rid of it.
And here's how you get rid of it. That's exactly right. The most helpful people in the world are on there. Or you can say, I've got an area that's got a lot of heavy shade. I can't trim the trees. What grows good in shady areas or whatever? So they're a great resource. Of course, I'm going to put my plug in. We encourage you to join QDMA. We have a banquet here in Louisville once a year and do a lot of stuff, but that's always a good resource to go to.
It is. And they're very knowledgeable people. And if you have property and you want food plots, but your job or your family doesn't allow you to have time to do it, check with your local co-ops. There's people out there that will put food plots for you in. Now, of course, it's going to cost, but they're knowledgeable people. I know Barstown Mills has several guys up there. They're old retired farmers. They still love to plant stuff. They still love to get on the tractor. And they charge you a little bit of nothing to actually go out to your property and plant your food plots for you.
Yeah.
So it's something that the old retirees can get a kick out of still doing, and you can still get your food plots if you just don't have time to do it. Me, I enjoy the heck out of putting them in.
You know, one of the things too, Tom, is one of the sponsors for the show, the Kentucky Department of Fish and Wildlife. They have a program called the Private Lands Biologist, and if you own or lease property and you want to know how to improve the habitat on your property, all you have to do is call them. They're free. They're biologists. They come out. They walk your property.
They tell you what you should do, what you shouldn't do.
And they actually have some equipment too that they can loan you. They've got some drills. They've got some sprayers.
Right.
So there's some resources there. And then there's some other professional companies like Shane and Paul Parker and those guys that do it. They make their living doing that. So there's a lot of resources.
There are. Folks, we'll be right back. We're going to take a quick break. Hey, welcome back to the last segment of Wild Kentuckiana Live. I'm your host, Tom Chamberlain. We've been talking food plots. We've been talking One Wish Foundation, turkey season, Kentucky and Indiana, tribe archery, HHA sports. We've covered a lot of good information for you. But probably this time of year, people's getting into food plot mode, so we've really went in depth on, well, we could have went more in depth than we did, but we wanted to give you the highlights of how to properly put your food plot in and what to do and find your different resources. Don't forget, use QDMA as their main resource. Those guys will be able to help you out. Secondary resource will be Fish and Wildlife Department. The biologists over there are very, very talented. They know what they're doing, and they'll come out for free and help you. Now, Ed, to put a food plot in, you don't have to have these great big Massey Ferguson, John Deere, big pieces of machinery to do it.
No, I've seen guys, I mean, ATV equipment will handle anything up to, say, 1 to 3 acres. I've done them bigger than that with an ATV.
Takes a while.
Takes a while, but you can go to Bass Pro, Cabela's, Rural King. They make all kinds of pull-behind discs and seeders that hook right to your ATV. You can put all of it in with an ATV. You can go to some of these farm places and you can...
There we are. It's Justin on my four-wheeler doing a drag after we've spread the seed. I can't begin to tell you how many hundreds of acres in with just that same type of equipment. You can go to farm equipment places and you can rent a tractor. And if you got 3 or 4 guys in on a lease and say you've got several locations, you start at daylight and you work till dark and you get 3 or 4 guys to go in, it doesn't cost all that much. Now, I'm very fortunate. I have a really nice John Deere, the tiller box, and a bush hog, so it makes it a little easier. But before I had this equipment, I did it old school. I used a tiller like you do in your garden. You know how long that takes to do a rear tine tiller?
Yes.
3 acres?
You know, proper seed bed. Once you get past the quality of dirt, which is your liming and everything else, the preparation, again, the seed's only as good as the dirt it goes into, and getting that good, you don't want it cloddy, you don't want it wet, you don't want it real dry. Because
and you've got a backpack spreader on there.
I've got a backpack spreader on.
And that, that works great. And then there's also attachment to that can go on the back of a four-wheeler, right?
That's correct. That's correct. It can mount right on a four-wheeler. Real quick, one of the biggest problems that people will do is they say, this clover is going to be 9 pounds per acre.
Right.
Boy, I'm going to hit it hard. I'm going to put 20 pounds to the acre. Well, all you've done is cost yourself a lot of money and maybe hurt your food plot. No different than if you've got two big strapping sons and the three of you all order a big pizza for dinner, and one of your sons brings over three of his friends. Mm-hmm. There's only the same amount of nutrients, but now you've doubled the users.
Right.
You put all that extra seed out there, they're fighting. There's only a certain amount of moisture in the ground. There's only a certain
all
amount
the seeds fighting for the same.
It's all fighting for the same thing. Mm-hmm. So follow the directions. Mm-hmm. That's always a big problem that people will do.
And make sure after you get a good seed out that you do the proper drag, because if not, your birds are going to get it. I mean, you'll lose a lot of it.
And again, read the directions.
Yeah.
Clovers and what we call small seed, 1/4 inch is all it's supposed to be down on the ground. Mm-hmm. Beans and that kind of stuff will go down 1.5 inches or so.
Right.
Well, you'll see guys plant clover, and I see them come through running disc after they sow it. Instead of running just a drag or a cultipacker, they'll just say, well, I'm going to disc that seed in. Well, now the seed's down here, and then they won't.
It never comes up.
Why it never comes up.
Right, and when you do a drag, drags are real simple. You can just get you an old piece of fence.
Yep.
I mean, it doesn't cost you. I mean, you can find a piece of fence anywhere. Couple big masonry blocks put on the back of it, and either you can pull it with your hands, which I don't recommend, or you can put it around the hitch of your four-wheeler or your side-by-side, and just ride around and drag it all. Yep. I mean, it's not real hard. That's the easiest part and the cheapest part of it, because the material to build that drag is a little bit nothing.
No, it's just like your seed. Your seed is actually probably going to be the least amount of the money that you spend. Mm-hmm. Time you spend the fuel, and then once it starts coming up, is monitoring the weeds, the grasses and the weeds, the herbicides, and making sure that you get the right stuff. When you buy like Post or Rest or the different types of herbicides, you want to read it, because it'll say, will kill clover, will kill oats, won't kill this, won't kill this. So you got to make sure you get the right stuff.
Yeah, you're making sure you're not killing what you just planted.
That's exactly right.
You want to kill all the weeds, so your clover or whatever you're planting can breathe, can grow, can get healthy. And hopefully you never have to mow that, because the deer are doing that for you.
Yeah, that's right.
If everything is been done properly. And the biggest thing before we get out of here tonight is make sure you do your soil samples. Don't waste all this money on a piece of ground that's not going to do it anyway if you don't do the proper stuff to it.
That's correct.
Because then you just wasted a lot of money. Folks, I want to thank you for tuning in this week to Wild Kentuckiana Live. We'll see. We'll be off next week for Mother's Day, but we'll see you the following week. Stay tuned.